He took on the entire political establishment. He took on the economic establishment, and he fought racism every step of the way. And what our job is not just to remember the history of Dr. King, it is to absorb his revolutionary spirit and apply it today. And that means we will fight racism in every part of American society. We will tell Republican governors they will not suppress the vote. If you're 18 years of age in America, you have the right to vote. End of discussion. Dr. King understood that there were the triple evils of American society were racism, were poverty, and militarism. And today we say in America, we will not accept massive levels of income and wealth inequality. We will not have a system where 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, while 500,000 Americans sleep out on the streets of our country today. We will not have a system where we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. Health care is a human right, not a privilege. We will not have a system where the very, very rich get richer while the poor get poorer, and half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. We remember Dr. King's revolutionary spirit, and we say to the 1%, you cannot have it all. This country belongs to all of us. Dr. King believed in ending war and militarism, and we are sick and tired of spending trillions of dollars on endless wars when our kids can't afford to go to college or are leaving school deeply in debt. We are sick and tired of people working for starvation wages because you can't raise a family on $9 an hour. We are sick and tired of a government which ignores the existential crisis of climate change. We are sick and tired of a racist and broken criminal justice system, disproportionately jailing African Americans, Latinos, and Native Americans. Brothers and sisters, the legacy of Dr. King is to have courage. This was a man who stood up against the war in Vietnam when it was not popular. This was a man who stood up to his own presidents when it was not popular. This was a man who stood up to the entire establishment of his time. So let me conclude in my 4.5 minutes. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And if we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up by the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation, or our religion, if we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish in the fight for economic justice, racial justice, social justice, environmental justice. In the spirit of Dr. King, let us stand together, let us go forward, let us complete the journey. Thank you very much.
Woman, Tulsi Gabbard.
Good afternoon and aloha. You know, in so many ways, as we gather here to celebrate this day, it is one of the most important American holidays because it represents who we aspire to be, rather than simply celebrating who we are or what we have been. Dr. King's legacy is one of love. Love for and service to God, and to all of God's children. And throughout his life, he embodied that love through his example of how he lived and how he led, and how even during our darkest of days, he chose love. He said, "It is love that will save our world and our civilization, love even for our enemies." For me, his example inspired me even from a young age, where I personally experienced that I was happiest when serving God, when working for the well-being of others and the planet, and this is what's motivated me throughout my life. As an Indigenous woman of color, I am inspired by the righteous army that fought for civil and human rights that we all enjoy today, powered by the bravery and sacrifices of Black women, many of whom called South Carolina home. Dr. King called Miss Septima Clark, born in Charleston, the mother of the movement. As a young teacher in Johns Island, she joined a young organization called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And this is where she began her fight for equality and pay and education, even at great cost and sacrifice to herself. This struggle for equality and education and economic justice are ongoing battles for us all today. And we owe it to those who came and sacrificed before us to carry on those battles. My first visit here to South Carolina came almost 17 years ago as a young private, newly enlisted in the military and headed to basic training at Fort Jackson. I still serve as a major in the Army National Guard today. Like so many Americans, it was those attacks on 9/11 that motivated me to make a decision to dedicate my life to defend the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. I deployed twice to the Middle East, and I served in Iraq in 2005 during the height of the war. Every day we were all confronted with the terribly high human cost of war, the price paid by my friends, our nation's sons and daughters. But there is a price for war that we all pay that Dr. King recognized. He opposed the Vietnam War because he saw that cost, how our government spent $35 billion a year to fight in Vietnam, but would not spend $44 million to get rid of the rats in impoverished American communities. But as we stand here today, our leaders waste trillions of dollars on the new Cold War and wasteful regime change wars that have not made us any safer. Right now, we are wasting $4 billion every month on war in Afghanistan alone. Yet politicians tell us there's no money for our children's education, no money for teachers' raises, no money to make sure that our children have clean water to drink in Columbia, in Hopkins, Belton, and across the country. No money to keep our hospitals from closing in rural communities like Orangeburg and Denmark. As president, I will end this insanity, where instead of wasting trillions of dollars on death and destruction, I will turn our precious dollars towards the cause of life and renewal here at home. Ultimately, the legacy of Dr. King is one of peace and freedom. He understood that the road to peace, freedom, and justice requires that we stand up to violence, injustice, and fear without doing greater violence, inflicting greater injustice, or instilling greater fear. He understood that if we are serious about being a force for good in the world, a force for God's love, we must proceed from a place of love for all of God's children. Our failed foreign policy of regime change wars and nation building has reduced the Middle East to chaos and rubble. Millions of innocent civilians killed or maimed, what to speak of the thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform who have been wounded and given their lives. My personal commitment to all of you is that as president, I will do my very best to follow the legacy of Ms. Septima Clark and Dr. King by taking the trillions of dollars we are wasting to enact death and destruction and instead invest it in the cause of life and renewal in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity today to go beyond the celebration of the legacy of Miss Clark and Dr. King by being a part of it. We have an opportunity to continue the work of our heroes. I feel so honored to be here to share this moment with all of you, standing shoulder to shoulder with heroes and soldiers in a 111-year-old army for peace, freedom, and justice for all. May God bless you all. May God bless America. Aloha. Thank you.